The stars around Virex Prime blinked like cold eyes watching everything below. The planet was home to the Galactic Council, where hundreds of alien species met to make laws, share trade, and talk about peace. It was a place of power, but also a place of secrets and quiet anger. A ship shaped like a silver arrow glided down through the clouds. It was not large, but every part of it looked clean and sharp. This was the human diplomatic ship. For many species in the Council, it was the first time they would meet humans in person. There had been messages and shared data, but no real presence. Now that Earth was asking to join the Council, everyone wanted to see what kind of beings humans really were. When the ship landed, a small group walked down the ramp. At the front was Ambassador Natalie Green, tall and calm with a soft but firm voice. Behind her were a few assistants and one man who stood out even though he said nothing. His name was Daniel Brooks. He wore a plain black suit, his hair short, and his face without much expression. He did not carry any weapons, but there was something in his posture that made even the guards look twice. "Is that a soldier?" one alien whispered. "No, they said he's an advisor," another replied. "But he walks like he's more than that." The welcoming group from the Council included several high-ranking members. There was Senator Veltok from the Drelvak, a large creature with green scales and long arms. Next to him stood First Voice Lura of the Tyran, a species known for their speed and sharp minds. Both looked at Daniel with suspicion. Ambassador Green smiled and gave a respectful bow. "Thank you for welcoming us to Virex Prime. Earth is honored to stand before the Council." "We hope your stay is short and peaceful," Veltok replied with a toothy grin. "We do not enjoy surprises." Green kept her smile. "Then you will find humans are very honest." Daniel said nothing. He only watched, his eyes scanning the area slowly. He was not nervous, in fact, he was too still. People noticed. The humans were taken to a tall building made of blue metal and glass. It was their embassy for the time being. Inside, they began their work. Natalie met with many council members to speak about Earth, its culture, and its goals. She was polite and clear. Daniel stayed in the background. He spoke little, listened a lot, and took careful notes. He was introduced as Security and Strategy Advisor, which made many aliens wonder what that meant. "Why does a diplomat need a strategy advisor?" Lura asked one night over a quiet dinner. "Because Earth believes in being ready for every kind of meeting," Green replied smoothly. That answer did not calm the Council. Instead, whispers began to spread. Some believed Earth had secrets. Others thought humans had developed weapons they were hiding. A few feared the humans were trying to play a long game, waiting to strike when no one expected it. Things grew tense when Daniel was invited to a discussion between mid-level council members. It was meant to be a friendly talk, but one Drelvak speaker, a young hothead named Korsh, could not stay calm. "Humans claim to want peace," Korsh growled, "but they send soldiers dressed as diplomats. What are you really planning?" Daniel looked at him for a moment. His voice was quiet but clear. "If I were a soldier, Korsh, you would already know." The room went silent. No one dared to laugh or speak. Daniel said nothing more. He simply stood and left the meeting. That small moment made a deep mark. Back in the embassy, Natalie Green looked at Daniel with concern. "You could have handled that more gently." "Maybe," Daniel said, but he wanted to provoke a reaction. "I gave him a warning instead. I hope they listen." "They won't," Daniel said. "Not yet." Outside the embassy, more whispers grew. Council guards watched the humans closely. More meetings were planned. Some delegates began talking in private about Earth being a threat, but Daniel did not change. He wore the same black suit, walked the same quiet way, and never raised his voice. Some began to call him the Quiet One. Others, more afraid, called him the shadow in the suit. They did not know what he was. Not yet. And soon they would find out in the worst way possible. Daniel stood at the edge of the open balcony, looking out over the glowing city of Virex Prime. Lights floated in the air, and tall buildings reached for the stars. Behind him, voices echoed from the evening reception inside the human embassy. Music played softly, and glasses clinked. But Daniel was not relaxed. He noticed the way some of the guards looked at him now. Longer stares, more whispers. He didn't need to hear the words to understand the message. Someone was watching him, not just out of curiosity, but out of fear. Inside, Natalie Green moved from guest to guest with practiced grace. She smiled, laughed, and spoke in calm, welcoming tones. But every now and then her eyes would find Daniel, and a quiet signal passed between them. She knew something was coming. So did he. Later that night, as the event ended, a message arrived for Daniel. It was marked as urgent, coming from the Council's security office. He was requested for a private talk about Earth's defense readiness. The time and location were strange, but not impossible. Still, Daniel didn't like surprises. He showed the message to Natalie. "Should I go?" She frowned. "It could be a trick." "It probably is," Daniel said, then picked up his coat. He arrived at the council hall 30 minutes later. The building was nearly empty. Only a few lights were on. The guard at the door didn't speak, only pointed down a long hallway. Daniel walked with calm steps. His suit looked simple, but inside it were layers of hidden tools and protections. His eyes took in every detail, the walls, the shadows, the way the air moved. At the end of the hallway, the lights cut off. He stopped. A low hum filled the air, followed by the sound of footsteps, many footsteps. Figures appeared from the darkness wearing armor from different worlds. Tyran stealth fighters, Drelvac enforcers, and others. A dozen in all. One of them stepped forward. "You were warned, human. Earth will not be allowed to bring war into the Council. We will remove you quietly." Daniel took one slow breath. "I understand," he said. Then he moved. In seconds, his calm body became a blur. He ducked under the first laser blast, stepped into the next attacker, and dropped him with a strike to the neck. He rolled behind a column as another shot rang out. His hand pulled a tiny device from his sleeve and pressed it against the wall. It exploded silently, sending a shockwave that knocked two attackers off their feet. One Tyran ran at him with a long blade. Daniel caught the arm, twisted it, and used the attacker's own weight to throw him across the room. Another charged, with a heavy staff, but Daniel ducked and swept his leg, sending the alien crashing to the floor. The fight lasted only minutes. When it was over, Daniel stood in the middle of the hall. Around him were bodies, not dead but broken, injured, unconscious. He had cuts on his arm and blood on his sleeve, but he was standing. The lights flicked back on. A camera in the corner of the room blinked. Someone had been watching. Daniel looked up at it. "You made a mistake," he said calmly. 10 minutes later, the council security team arrived. They were shocked by what they saw. Daniel did not run. He stood with his hands at his sides, waiting. One officer stepped forward. "What happened here?" "They attacked," Daniel said. "I defended myself." Natalie Green arrived soon after. Her face was pale, but she kept her voice steady. "He has diplomatic protection. Any action taken against him will be seen as an attack on Earth." The council leaders met the next day. News of the fight spread fast. Whispers turned to fear. No one had seen a human move like that before. They started asking questions. Who was Daniel Brooks? Was he really just an advisor? A few names began to appear in private talks. Project Eidolon, Human Weapon, Ghost of Earth. Words filled with mystery and warning. Daniel did not answer questions. He stayed inside the embassy, quiet as always. He drank tea, read reports, and waited. Natalie asked him, "What is Project Eidolon?" "Something Earth started a long time ago," Daniel said. "They built me for war, but I asked to be used for peace. And they let you? I earned their trust. Now, I serve it." Natalie sat down across from him. "Do you think they will try again?" "Yes," he said. "But next time they won't hide it. Will you kill them if they do?" Daniel looked at her, his eyes calm but cold. Only if they force me. Outside, the council grew quiet. The delegates who had planned the attack were silent. Some said nothing happened. Others tried to blame Daniel, but no one dared face him again. Not yet. And now, in quiet corners of the galaxy, the name Daniel Brooks was spoken with fear. A man in a black suit who fought like death itself. The human they should not have touched. The first move had been made. The next would be war. Morning light crept across the sky of Virex Prime, turning the silver towers gold. Inside the council security hall, silence held the air tight. 12 beds lined the infirmary. Every bed held an armored fighter who had tried to kill Daniel Brooks the night before. The medics worked in a hush, afraid to speak of what had happened. Chief Investigator Grell, a gray-skinned Tazran with 4 eyes, stepped between the beds. He studied each injury, noting broken bones, dislocated joints, and deep bruises. There were no burn marks from blasters, no sign of wildfire. All damage was precise. Someone had taken these fighters apart in a clean, cold way. Grell did not. Like mysteries, and this one felt sharp enough to cut him. He turned to his assistant, a young human named Ethan Ross, one of the few Earth officers already working with the Council. Ethan kept his face calm, but his hands stayed tight behind his back. "You saw the footage," Grell said. "Explain what I missed." Ethan chose his words with care. The attacker moved with trained timing. He did not waste motion. He disabled weapons, first then limbs, then senses. It is a style meant to stop a fight fast without heavy blood. Grell snorted. "Disable? Some of these fighters may never walk again." "Yes, sir," Ethan said. "That is still mercy compared to death." Grell looked at the screen that showed Daniel standing calmly among fallen bodies, waiting to be arrested. A diplomat who fights like that is no diplomat. Across the city, the human embassy was under tight guard. Natalie Green sat in her office, watching reports scroll across her tablet. There were calls from Earth Command, messages from Council allies, and thinly veiled threats from angry delegates. She rubbed her eyes. No amount of smooth words could hide last night's violence. Daniel knocked once and entered. He wore the same black suit, cleaned and pressed. Only a thin bandage on his forearm showed he had been hurt at all. Natalie set the tablet aside. "Council security wants a statement. They want to know why you refused medical treatment for the attackers." "Because the attackers are alive," Daniel said. "My statement is clear enough. They call it excessive force. Ask them how much force. They planned for me." He spoke with no edge, only fact. Natalie breathed out slowly. "Earth's leadership is worried. This could end our request to join." "No," Daniel said. "This ends the illusion that the Council is always civilized. They bled first, we simply showed teeth." She looked up at him, her voice soft. "Daniel, who trained you to fight like that?" He remained still. "Project Eidolon." Natalie felt the name, like cold wind. She had heard rumors, an old covert unit, extreme training, soldiers who became something more. "I thought Eidolon was closed years ago." "It was," Daniel said. "I asked for release from combat duty. They granted it under one rule. I would serve Earth in another way. They gave me a suit instead of a rifle. But they never took away what they built." She stood and walked to the window. "I believed we came here for peace." "We did," Daniel answered. "And peace stands best when danger is honest. I am that honesty." A soft chime sounded. The main screen lit up with Chief Investigator Grell's stern face. Natalie accepted the call. "Ambassador Green, we require Mr. Brooks at Council headquarters for formal questioning. Now." Natalie kept her voice polite. "Chief Grell, Daniel, was the victim of an unprovoked attack. Does the Council seek to punish the defender and not the aggressor?" Grell's eyes narrowed. "We seek truth. Bring him within the hour or we will send armed escort." Daniel nodded once. "I will go. Alone." Natalie turned to him. "I should accompany you." "No," Daniel said. "This is between them and me. If they want war, they need to see the first shadow of it." An hour later, Daniel stepped into the vast marble chamber used for inquiries. Rows of seats climbed high on both sides, filled with diplomats, aides, and guards. Cameras hovered, broadcasting to every system. The floor under Daniel's feet was a circle of pale stone, smooth as water. Grell stood on a raised platform. State. Your name and role. Daniel Brooks, Security and Strategy Advisor to Ambassador Green. His voice carried without effort. You engaged in violence last night, resulting in severe harm to Council personnel. Do you admit this? I defended my life. Daniel looked around the hall. They carried weapons, false orders, and murder in their thoughts. I carried the wish to go home alive. Murmurs spread. A Tyran delegate rose, thin fingers shaking. This human is a threat to galactic peace. Look at him, no fear, no remorse. Daniel's eyes met the delegates. Fear is a choice. I choose caution instead. As for remorse, I regret they forced my hand. I gave them warning time to retreat. They refused. Another delegate, a pale blue Serrani, leaned forward. What is Project Eidolon? Daniel paused. Cameras zoomed in. He could feel Natalie watching in a private viewing room nearby. Project Eidolon was Earth's answer to endless wars among our own nations, he said. The project shaped volunteers, to protect without pause, to finish fights quickly so others could live. I was one of those volunteers. Earth shut the project down when peace grew stronger at home. But some of us still serve not with guns but with presence. He held out his hands, empty. This suit is my flag. It warns rather than kills. A long silence followed. Then Grell spoke again. Do you intend further violence? Not unless forced. But understand this, Earth does not start wars, we end them. His calm tone made the words heavier than any shout. Across the hall, several delegates exchanged troubled looks. Others seemed thoughtful. The Drelvac envoy, who had first insulted Earth 2 days earlier, kept his eyes down. Grell cleared his throat. Until we finish our inquiry, you are free to return to your embassy. Stay within diplomatic limits. His voice dropped lower. And be aware, some here now fear you. Fear can turn to panic. Then they should remember last night's lesson, Daniel replied. Panic only ends one way. He left the hall without escort. Outside, Ethan Ross waited by a sleek ground car. Ethan opened the door. You were calm. Calm is easier than rage, Daniel said. Rage clouds math. Math? Yes, Daniel said, sliding into the seat. The math of how many lives break when war begins. The car pulled away. In the distance, tall spires of alien design cut the sky. Somewhere behind those walls, shaky hands were dialing secure lines, plotting next moves. At the embassy, Natalie met Daniel in the secure conference room. She had a small data chip in her fingers. This arrived through an unmarked channel. She placed it on the table. The hologram that sprang up showed schematics of the embassy, highlighted in red. Weak points, Daniel said. Yes, someone is planning something bigger. He studied the map. They will strike fast, before the inquiry ends. They think removing us will silence Earth. Natalie's voice trembled. Can we stop them? Daniel looked up, his eyes steady. We can prepare, and we can warn them one last time. But if they come, we finish it. Ethan stepped in with fresh reports. Unusual transport movements near the western loading docks. Tyran and Drelvac symbols were spotted. Daniel straightened. Clear, non-essential. Staff. Fortify inner rooms. No aggressive signals yet. We wait. Natalie nodded. And if they breach the walls? Daniel checked the bandage on his arm, then adjusted his cuff. Then the council will learn why some humans are called death in a suit. Outside, night fell over Virex Prime again. The first stars began to appear, bright points in a deep blue sea. The city lights shimmered. In that glowing dark, whispers about Earth grew louder, mixing fear with respect. War drums were not beating yet, but the air carried the first low echo. Daniel stood by a window, hands in his pockets, watching the city breathe. He felt the weight of what was coming, heavy but familiar. Peace had a price, and he had paid part of it many times. If the galaxy wanted the rest, he would give it, but only if forced. For now, he waited, quiet as a blade in its sheath, ready for the moment peace would need a sharp edge. Clouds slipped across the pale moon of Virex Prime, casting moving shadows over the embassy roof. Inside, a low red light pulsed in the halls, while most of the human staff slept behind sealed doors. Only the alert team moved, soft-footed and silent. Daniel Brooks walked the main corridor, checking every camera feed on a small wrist display. Ethan Ross followed a few steps back, carrying a case of spare power cells for the internal shields. Third sensor grid is green, Ethan said quietly. Pressure pads on level 2 show no change. They will not come through doors, Daniel answered. Look up, look under. They will cut where we least expect. Ethan swallowed. Why not warn Council security? Because Council security is divided, Daniel said. Some would help us, some would help the attackers. We trust ourselves first. In the command room, Natalie Green stood at the central table. A hologram of the embassy floated above it, lines in blue and defense layers in bright yellow. She tapped one wall section. This is the weak side. Loading docks hide large vehicles big enough for assault craft. Daniel entered. Move medical staff to the secure cellar. Keep lights low. Natalie met his eyes. Can we still solve this with words? Words ended when they forged the last summons, Daniel said. Tonight they plan to erase witnesses. A soft alarm chirped. The hologram zoomed out, showing new red points gathering beyond the outer fence. Ethan called out, multiple heat signatures, unmarked transports. Natalie closed her hands tight. All right, defensive posture 2. No lethal fire unless they breach. Daniel opened a locked cabinet. Inside were slim handheld stun weapons, sonic grenades, and optic flash discs. Everyone takes non-lethal first, but keep level 3 response on belt. Level 3 was a polite code for kill tech. Less than 10 minutes later, the first strike began. A bright flash lit the west wall. Explosive foam ate into the metal panels, silent but fast. A square hole opened, and shadowy forms poured through. They wore chameleon armor that bent the eye, but infrared sensors painted them bright orange on Daniel's wrist display. He spoke into the comm, voice even. Team Beta, Intercept Group West Hall, Pattern Crescent. 2 human guards popped smoke discs that filled the corridor with thick silver mist. From hidden vents, sonic pulses rolled out, making ears ring and balance fail. The intruders staggered, firing blind stun bolts that melted floor lights. Daniel entered the haze. He did not run. He drifted, a dark outline among brighter shapes. His first strike was a short jab to a Tyran neck. The alien dropped without sound. A Drelvac swung a heavy baton, but Daniel bent sideways, caught the arm, and used the attacker's bulk as a shield against 2 more shots. Flash grenades burst, turning the smoke white. Daniel's visor flicked to filtered mode. He kicked one attacker in the knee, flipped another with a shoulder roll, and placed a stun patch on the third's chest. By the time the smoke cleared, 6 armored bodies lay still. Across the embassy, similar fights sparked. Human defenders used narrow passages, shutting blast doors behind each retreat, forcing the attackers into bottlenecks. The design looked like art on blueprints, but was a maze in real space. Natalie stayed in command, her voice steady. Alpha corridor lost first layer. Seal next gate. Pressure valves open now. Pipes hissed as freezing gas vented, coating metal with ice. Tyran claws slipped. Drelvac scales cracked from cold shock. Security turrets popped out and sprayed adhesive foam, gluing boots to floor. But the attackers kept coming. They had numbers and no care for risk. A group reached the central atrium where a skylight stretched overhead. They planted charges on the glass. Daniel saw the feed and sprinted. He arrived as the skylight blew inward, shards sparkling like deadly rain. Athletically, he leaped to catch a ceiling beam, avoiding the fall, then dropped into the circle of debris before the enemies regained balance. One attacker raised a plasma cutter. Daniel snapped a thin baton from his sleeve. The metal rod hummed with high-frequency edges. He blocked the cutter, twisted and sliced through the weapon's grip. Sparks flew. Then he struck the wielder's helmet, shorting the visor. Another aimed a rifle. Daniel kicked a shard of glass up with his toe and hit the trigger finger, spoiling the shot. He followed with a palm strike to the rifle barrel, bending it. A quick leg sweep sent the alien sprawling. Reinforcements from Team Beta burst in, launching stun nets. The fight in the atrium ended in under a minute. Bodies lay amid glass, but every defender still breathed. Moments later, alarms changed tone. Sharp, insistent. Ethan's voice came over comms, tense. Hostiles planting demolitions on reactor vents. The vents powered the shield field. If those blew, the embassy shell would fall. Daniel ran, boots pounding metal stairs 2 at a time. He reached the sublevel just as 3 intruders finished placing magnetic charges. He counted their steps, then hurled 2 sonic grenades. They bounced once, twice, then burst with a muted thump. The sound wave was below hearing, yet strong enough to knock lungs empty. Daniel tackled the closest Tyran, pinning limbs, and ripped the detonator pack away. Another attacker tried to crawl for a fallback switch. Daniel grabbed a loose cable and looped it around the alien's legs, jerking him back. The last intruder lifted a blade. Daniel drew a compact shock pistol and fired. The blue dart struck the alien's chest and sent him into a rigid spasm. He disarmed the charges methodically, fingers quick. When the danger lights on the devices turned green again, he relaxed a fraction. Only then did he notice blood running from a cut on his cheek. Natalie's voice slipped through earpiece static. "Daniel, status?" "Charges safe," he said. "Resistance thinning. Expect surrender soon." But surrender was not in the plan of the attackers. They had one last card. Outside the embassy's front gate, a heavy carrier rolled up. From its back, a scaled warsuit stood, a Drelvac exo armor over 3 meters tall, bristling with pulse cannons. Security cameras caught the giant as it fired at the gate. Twin blasts ripped hinges loose. The gate toppled with a crash. Smoke billowed. Natalie watched the feed, heart jumping. "Bring turrets 2 and 3 online," she ordered. But power conduits flickered. Someone inside had cut lines. Turrets stayed dark. Daniel already moved, sprinting through corridors toward the front plaza. Along the way, he grabbed a shoulder-launched coil driver from the armory locker. He stepped into the open plaza as the exo armor lumbered through smoke. It spotted him and charged, cannons glowing. Daniel knelt, bracing the coil driver. The suit's targeting beam painted his chest. He waited, heartbeat steady, calculating distance. The exo armor fired first. 2 red lances streaked toward him. Daniel rolled right, feeling heat graze his arm. He planted one knee, aimed, and pulled the trigger. The coil driver released a single tungsten spike at hypersonic speed. It struck the armor's knee joint. Metal shattered. The giant stumbled but did not fall. Daniel fired again, hitting the cannon mount. Sparks erupted as circuits fried. The exo armor roared in a digital voice and raised a massive fist. Daniel dashed forward, sliding under the swing. He slapped a magnetic mine onto the suit's back as he went by. He rolled to his feet 3 meters away and pressed a remote. The mine detonated with a sharp crack, blowing a hole through armor plates. The giant staggered. Daniel jumped, using broken scaffolding for height, and landed atop the damaged back. He jammed a shock probe into exposed wiring and pulsed full current. Energy arced. The exo armor convulsed, then froze. Motors died. Daniel hopped off as the massive frame crashed onto the stone tiles. Silence fell over the plaza, broken only by soft groans of wounded attackers deeper inside. Natalie's relieved voice came through comms. "Front threat neutralized. All signals show retreat. They're pulling back." Daniel surveyed the field. Ambulance drones from Council security were arriving, lights flashing blue. His team emerged, some bruised, a few bleeding, but standing. He keyed the channel to all embassy staff. "Stand down from red alert. Medical units to triage stations. Defensive protocols remain on standby." He paused, then added, "We did well, all of you." Inside, Ethan sank against a wall, wiping sweat away. Is it over? For tonight, Daniel said. He walked back through shattered gates, suit torn, face marked by dust and blood. Yet his steps were calm, almost casual. Council security drones rolled up to scan fallen invaders. Some delegates arrived in person, wide-eyed at the wreckage. Daniel looked at them with quiet challenge. Earth defended itself without killing unless there was no choice. Remember that. He gestured to the disabled exo-armor. This is what happens when you test our patience. The delegates had no answer. Hours later, dawn painted the city in soft pink. The embassy lights stayed dim, running on backup power. Engineers repaired walls, patched wires, and recorded damage. Natalie found Daniel on the roof, watching sunrise. Council emergency meeting in 2 hours, she said. I will attend, Daniel replied, eyes on the growing light. Alone? Yes, tonight showed them force. Now they need words. He touched the tear in his suit sleeve. Let's see if words still matter. Natalie stood beside him. I hope they do. The sun climbed, bright and warm, but the chill of night's battle clung to the air. Below, workers cleared broken armor and sealed blast holes. Life moved on, carrying the memory of the quiet human who fought like a living storm, and across, Virex Prime whispers turned into a single phrase spoken in many tongues. Death in a suit walks among us, and he is patient, but not forever. Daniel stood in front of a long mirror inside the embassy and fixed his tie. The cloth was new. The suit had been cleaned, but small burn marks still showed at the cuff. He did not hide them. They were part of the story he would tell. Ethan waited by the door with a slim case. Inside were memory crystals that held recordings of the ambush, the rooftop fight, and the attack with the exo-armor. Ethan looked nervous. His hands shook until Daniel placed one calm hand on his shoulder. Truth does not need perfect words, Daniel said. It only needs clear light. Natalie entered with 2 guards. She handed Daniel an official pass marked urgent session. The council hall is full. Many want you banned. Some want you jailed. But most want to understand what happened. Daniel nodded. Understanding is all I ask. He took the case from Ethan and walked out. Across the city, banners of many colors hung from tall poles. Broadcast drones floated above streets, sending live images to every world that watched council news. Everyone had heard about the failed attack on the human embassy. Many believed rumor over fact. Today, Daniel would give them fact. The grand spire of the council stood like a silver spear in the morning sun. Layers of glass and metal wrapped around its core. When Daniel arrived, reporters called out questions, but security shields kept them back. He passed through scanners that beeped but were quickly shut off. The human delegate had special clearance. Inside the main chamber, seats curved around a raised floor where witnesses spoke. 3,000 eyes followed Daniel as he stepped onto the platform. His shoes echoed once, then silence settled like thick air. High Speaker Vora, a tall Violet Serrani, opened the session. We gather in emergency to judge events that threaten the peace. Human representative, present your statement. Daniel placed the crystal case on a stand. I come with evidence and with warning. His voice was steady, each word simple. First, you will see who attacked us and why. Second, you will decide what happens next. He touched a pad. The lights dimmed. A large holoscreen bloomed over the chamber. The first recording showed the empty hall where Daniel had been ambushed, then the sudden assault. Delegates gasped when they saw recognizable uniforms of Tyran and Drelvac fighters. They watched Daniel defend himself, swift but measured, never striking twice where once was enough. The second recording showed the embassy corridors. Smoke, foam, and stun nets filled the view. Sensors marked invaders in red, defenders in blue. They saw that humans fired non-lethal rounds until lethal. Force was forced upon them. The last footage focused on the exo-armor fight. The massive suit crashed through the gate. Daniel met it alone. Crowd murmurs grew as they watched him disable the giant without killing the pilot. The lights came back. Daniel faced the hall. Earth did not begin these fights. Earth finished them with as little blood as possible. The attackers broke council law, they broke trust, yet we humans show restraint. A Tyran delegate with silver markings rose, eyes burning. Restraint? You humiliated our finest units. You damaged council property. Daniel answered without anger. Your units came to murder. The property was a shield for the innocent. We will repair metal, but who repairs broken trust? A low voice from the Drelvac sector spoke. Senator Veltok stood, tail swishing. Why should we trust humans now? You hide warriors behind kind words. Daniel held up his hand. I hide nothing. He tapped the crystal again. A still image projected. A signed order by Veltok and a Tyran commander authorizing preventive removal of human delegates. Gasps spread. Veltok's scales shifted color in sudden fear. High Speaker Vora slammed a gavel. Order. This document must be verified. Daniel offered the original crystal. Verify it. While you do, ask why so many guards were moved off duty last night. Ask why attack ships waited with engines hot. The pattern is clear. Tech officers hurried to check the data. Results flashed green. Authentic. Vora looked at Veltok. Do you deny your code? The Drelvac senator gave no reply. The hall buzzed. Several delegates from neutral species whispered, now thinking of new alliances. Daniel spoke again. Earth came seeking union. We offered trade, science, friendship. We expected doubt and even fear. But we did not expect knives in the dark. I am what happens when patience is tested. I am not the threat. I am the answer to threats. He paused, letting the words rest. You fear humans because we are strong and new. Let me show you the truth of that strength. He reached into his pocket and withdrew a small stone, rough, gray. This is a piece of my home soil. He set it on the stand. It grows nothing unless cared for. It breaks if struck hard. But in the right hands it builds cities, roads, and dreams. Humans are like this stone, hard when hit, soft when nurtured. Which do you want? Silence stretched, tense but thoughtful. Finally, a soft voice spoke. First voice Lyra of the Tyran rose. Her earlier anger seemed melted into regret. We feared what we did not know. We chose violence. That was error. She bowed toward Daniel. The Tyran government will open full review and withdraw any covert teams. We will pay for damage to the human embassy. Murmurs turned to surprise. Then another delegate, a slim plenary scholar, stood. The plenary vote for Earth's candidacy to move forward without delay. One by one, small lights on the great voting board blinked on. Support grew across the chamber. Not all joined, but momentum was clear. Veltok tried once more. Humans hide more than one weapon. They will conquer us in time. Daniel looked at him with calm pity. Conquest is a hungry road. Earth traveled it long ago and found only graves. We choose a better road now. Stand with us or stand aside, but do not stand in front. High Speaker Vora raised her hand. We will hold formal vote in 24 hours. Until then, the Drelvac and Tyran councils must answer for these attacks. She turned to Daniel. Human envoy, you may return to your embassy with full protection. Daniel gave a small nod and stepped down. As he walked the central aisle, reporters shouted, but security held them back. Delegates leaned in, some offering respectful bows, others turning away in shame. Outside the chamber, Natalie waited. Her eyes were bright with relief. You shifted the tide, she whispered. Truth did, Daniel said. He handed her the empty crystal case. Fear loses power when light is strong. They entered an armored car. Ethan drove. Through the window, Daniel watched. Towers glide past. The city looked less strange now, more like another place where humans could belong. Do you believe they will vote yes? Ethan asked. Enough will, Daniel said. And even if they vote no, the galaxy now knows what Earth will not accept. Natalie leaned back. We still have enemies. Yes, Daniel agreed, but enemies think twice. After they taste their own blade. The car reached the embassy. Workers were still replacing broken glass and patching walls. Children of staff played quietly in a garden, unaware of the danger that had passed. Daniel watched them run between flowers inside. "This is why I fight," he said softly, "so they can laugh without fear." Night fell again. Stars settled over Virex Prime like scattered diamonds. In millions of homes across many worlds, people watched replay of Daniel's speech. Some felt admiration, some fear, but all felt respect. In a quiet room, Daniel removed his jacket and set it over a chair. He washed the dust from his hands, then opened a small window to the night. Cool air drifted in. He thought of Earth's blue oceans and familiar skies far away. Then he thought of this new sky and how peace might spread under it. He spoke a single promise to the dark. Let peace last. The promise was simple, like the stone on the council stand. Small, solid, and ready to build something better if guarded well. Dawn broke over Virex Prime with gentle color. For the first time in days, the sky was clear, almost peaceful. Inside the human embassy, workers finished the last repairs. New glass shone in the windows. Walls were brushed clean, though faint marks of heat still showed if someone looked closely. Daniel Brooke sat at a round table with Natalie Green and Ethan Ross. A small pot of tea steamed between them. None of them spoke for a long while. They listened to the near silence, each thinking of what lay ahead. A chime rang. Natalie checked her device and nodded. The full council vote begins in 1 hour. She poured tea for Daniel. Many messages in the night. More worlds have moved to support us. Ethan smiled, but worry stayed in his eyes. Some threats came too. Anonymous channels, dark promises. Daniel took the cup, warm in his hand. Fear struggles, hardest before it breaks. He sipped once, then stood. Time to face the last test. They left the embassy in a single vehicle. Council security escorted them this time, not out of mistrust, but respect. Soldiers saluted as they passed. Some whispered the phrase that had spread across fleets and planets. Death in a suit. Inside the grand spire, the great hall buzzed. Delegates filled every seat. Reporters packed the upper balconies. A bright voting board hung over the dais. Lights off, waiting. High Speaker Vora began the session. We convene to decide Earth's entry into this council. Let the roll call stand ready. Her voice carried calm authority, but tension flowed under every word. Daniel, Natalie, and Ethan took their place on the witness floor. No recordings played today. Everything had already been shown. Now it was only choice. Speaker Vora raised one hand. Each member will signal yes or no. A 2/3 yes makes Earth a full member. A simple majority makes Earth an associate with limited rights. Less blocks entry. We begin. A soft hum started as delegates pressed touchpads. On the board, small white lights shifted to green for yes or red for no. At first, greens and reds blinked in near balance. Then one green spread into 3. Clusters followed. Red patches shrank. Daniel watched without movement. Ethan counted under his breath. Natalie held her hands together tight. The final light changed. The board turned deep emerald with only thin lines of red left in corners. A number flashed overhead, 73%. The hall broke into applause. Some delegates stood, others clapped politely. A few crossed their arms. But the vote was clear. High Speaker Vora struck the gavel. By supermajority, Earth is accepted as full member of the Galactic Council. Rights and responsibilities take effect at next session. Her expression softened. Welcome, humans. Natalie let out a slow breath. Ethan grinned wide. Daniel only inclined his head once. The applause faded as Vora continued. There is another matter. The Council must address the breaches of law committed during recent attacks. She looked toward the Tyran and Drelvac sectors. Formal charges are filed. Representatives will face tribunal. Security protocols will change to prevent such abuses in future. Lura of the Tyran stood. The Tyran government accepts judgment and will cooperate. Her voice sounded humble. Veltok was absent. A deputy sat in his place, silent and pale. Rumor whispered that Veltok had fled overnight, fearing arrest. Speaker Vora nodded. So recorded. She then turned back to Daniel. Human envoy, do you wish to speak before we close? Daniel stepped forward. He did not raise his voice. The room leaned in to hear. Earth thanks the Council. We understand the weight of this vote. We will meet it with honesty and resolve. Some here still doubt us. That is fair. Trust comes with time and choice. We will show it daily. He paused, letting the simple words settle. I ask one thing in return. Remember that peace is not gentle by nature. Peace is a wall we build together. It must be guarded, repaired, and sometimes defended. Earth will guard it. With open hand first, with closed hand only when forced. Quiet agreement rippled through the seats. Speaker Vora gave a slight smile. Your words are noted. Session adjourned. She struck the gavel. Lights brightened. Chatter rose at once. Daniel turned to Natalie and Ethan. We have much work. Embassies. To open treaties to draft. Natalie laughed softly. After arrest, I hope. They left the hall. Reporters surrounded them, but security guides kept a clear path. Outside, morning light bathed the plaza. Crowds watched large screens repeating the vote result. Some cheered when Daniel appeared. Others simply stared, curious and cautious. A small child of the plenary race stepped forward, holding a handmade flag that showed Earth's blue and green next to the silver emblem of the Council. The child offered it to Daniel. He knelt, accepted the flag, and thanked the child in slow plenary words. Cameras flashed, capturing the gentle moment. Back at the embassy, celebration began quietly. Staff shared food in the garden. Engineers put away repair tools and brought out lanterns. Simple music played from a speaker. Daniel moved through the gathering, speaking little, shaking hands. Many thanked him. A few cried, relief pouring out after long fear. He offered a calm smile to each. When night fell, the embassy lights glowed soft gold. Natalie raised a glass of fruit drink. To Earth's new chapter, she said. All around, voices echoed the toast. Ethan turned on a small projector that showed Earth's sunrise, real-time feed from orbit. Blue oceans shimmered on the screen. Later, Daniel walked the quiet halls alone. He passed the patched walls, the new glass, the cleaned floors. Every mark told a piece of the story. At the roof access, he paused, then climbed. The rooftop garden was empty. Stars blazed bright above. Free of cloud, near the edge stood a table with a single stone. The same gray piece of earth soil he had shown to the Council. Someone had placed it here, perhaps Natalie. Daniel picked it up. In his mind, he saw vast fields back home, children learning, oceans, alive with whales. He also saw battlefields long past, fires and ruins that taught humanity pain. Both pictures lived in the weight of the stone. Soft footsteps sounded. Natalie joined him, carrying 2 cups of tea. I thought you might be here, she said, handing him one. They looked over the sleeping city. Distant lights of ships glided like slow meteors across the star field. Natalie spoke first. Do you think the worst is behind us? Daniel considered. The worst plan we faced is done, but new plans will rise. Balance of power shifts tonight. Some will welcome us, others will fear stronger alliances. Are you tired? She asked. He breathed in the cool air. Not tired, ready. Peace is work, same as war, but there is better music in the work of peace. They drank tea in silence. Below, the embassy lights dimmed. Workers slept at last. Natalie finished her cup. What will you do tomorrow? Daniel set the stone back on the table. Tomorrow I visit schools. They invited me to talk about Earth. I will speak about hope, not weapons. Natalie smiled. That sounds good. Daniel watched a cluster of shooting stars streak west. Let peace last, he whispered again. Natalie heard him. With guardians like you, it has a chance. He shook his head. Guardians like all of us. I am only the shadow. Peace lives in the light. Builders, teachers, quiet hands planting new seeds. She nodded. Then we shine brighter. They stood a while longer. Finally, Natalie left. Daniel stayed, alone with the stars and the distant hum of a city that had tried to kill him but now offered a new path. He removed his suit jacket, folded it neatly, and laid it over the railing. The night breeze touched the fabric. Battle marks showed faintly in moonlight. Daniel looked at his empty hands. They could break or they could heal. They could end life or lift it up. Tonight they rested. He whispered one last promise to the sky. I will keep the wall. Then he turned, picked up his jacket and walked down into the light of a new day.